to Those Who Give a Damn podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for having me this morning. I am so excited to be here this morning. I first of all want to take an opportunity to thank your president, President Dr. Jennifer Young Wallace, for having me. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much for your leadership and the work that you do. And I am standing here today because of teachers like Dr. Wallace. So I just want to say thank you for having me this morning. This morning, I'm really excited to be here because I am going to really take us through a journey beyond the curriculum. A journey beyond the syllabus, a journey beyond the day-to-day works of education, right? I know a lot of you all are teachers and educators, and the workload is getting bigger and bigger as the academic year starts, right? But today my hope is to center us to the focus, and that focus is students, to center us to the children in which we serve every single day. And so how am I going to center us here today, right? Before any child receives their voice in the world, it is a teacher's belief in them that gives them the ability to speak. I want to repeat that again. Before any child ever receives their voice, their place in life, it is the teacher belief in them that gives them the ability to speak. And so today I want to center us, number one, at looking beyond the curriculum. So when we think about students, right? Students carry stories, not just test scores, right? Students carry stories and not just test scores. As you can imagine, this young man that is standing here right now is that young man in that photo, right? And so I want to center us today, and I stopped by to really stir your souls about what does it mean to look beyond the curriculum? What does it mean to look beyond the day-to-day operations of the school district and start looking into the eyes and in the souls of your student? This young man that you're looking at that was 17 years ago in high school was a young man in poverty, a young man that would go to school in rural Mississippi and would not know whether or not he would have food on the table to eat. The only meal that I would get some days would be the meal that I received in the cafeteria. There was days that I worried about whether or not me and my siblings would have food to eat. There was days that I would miss school because my mother was going through a divorce and a father who was dealing with mental illness. And there was days that I had to stay home in hopes to protect my mother. I grew up in a trailer where I could see the ground from the floor of that trailer. The grass was growing up in that trailer. That is the type of poverty that I come from in Mississippi. So when I say we have to center ourselves and look beyond the curriculum, that is indeed what I mean. My teacher suggested to my mother, you should probably put Duvalier in special education because he is not learning. I couldn't learn not because I didn't have the ability to learn. I couldn't learn because I was worried about food. I was worried about my mother, if she would be home when I get home because of that divorce. So today, we want to look at curriculum that meets not just content, but that really does look at the whole student, right? Teaching must embrace the whole student, mind, body, and soul. So I want you all, as we go through this presentation this morning, to center yourselves, right? To look beyond what you see in that photo and look at the souls of your students. So that's what I mean today when I talk about we're going to look beyond the curriculum. So when we think about our students, from pain to purpose, my journey, as I talked about, this is my sister and I. When we think about looking beyond the curriculum, that teacher misjudged and labeled me instead of supporting me. But I want to tell you about a success story that changed my life forever. At the age of 16, my grandmother approached me with an essay contest. She knew that I was passionate about politics. I lived and breathed politics for some odd reason at a very young age, right? So my grandmother approached me with this essay contest. It was going to allow me to go to Jackson, Mississippi to visit the state capitol, and then go on to Washington, D.C. To meet with leaders from all across the country. So my grandmother gave me that essay. She and I began to write that essay. But I approached the teacher in high school that I knew saw me. She got me. I could tell in her feedback to me and my assignments that she saw me. She recognized the gift that was on the inside of me. So I approached this teacher, Miss Nikisha Ellis, who's retired just this past year. And I said, hey, can you help me look at this essay? She said, absolutely. So I wrote that essay with the assistance of my grandmother and a teacher who saw me, who looked beyond the curriculum, looked beyond what I was turning in, and said, this opportunity is going to change his life. I went on and I won that essay at the age of 16. That essay landed me to Jackson, Mississippi, and then on to Washington, D.C. As you can imagine, I told you I grew up in poverty. I had never stayed in a hotel. I had never flew anywhere in my entire life, but I was on my way to Washington, D.C. As you can imagine, I got that essay, and I learned what it means to be around people from all different backgrounds and walks of life. It was a class of 30 students that was heading to Washington from all over Mississippi. And I would hear their stories about, oh, I'm going to go to Mississippi State. I'm going to Ole Miss. I want to go, to Harvard. I want to go to Yale. And I started to be inspired. I quickly understood that poverty did not define me and that I could do anything that I put my mind to do. I left from Washington, D.C. with a renewed energy. My GPA was less than probably 2.5 at that time in high school, right? But I came back inspired. I started to study for the ACT. I said, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to make something of myself. So I pulled my grades up, I graduated from the top of my high school, and I went on to Alcorn State University, and I did extremely well there because a teacher saw me. That high school teacher looked beyond the curriculum, and she saw me. So when I say I want to center us today, when I say I come to stir your souls, I come today to ask you, as you're going back into your semesters and you're going back into your communities, to look beyond the curriculum. I get it. The hustle and bustle of leadership, your lesson plans, right? Your test scores. I want to center you to look beyond the curriculum and see the eyes of your students and recognize that pain so that that pain can be turned into purpose. So when we think about the power of one educator, it changes a life forever. And then that life becomes a domino effect, right? So when we think about it, I want you to look at finding ways to give opportunity instead of judgment. So many times we live in a society that we judge what we see on the outer appearance. Look at the soul of a student. Students' eyes and their demeanor is always telling us something. So again, I want you all to look beyond the curriculum, get opportunities to give your students instead of judgment. One teacher's belief can rewrite history. One teacher's belief can rewrite history. Can you imagine Nikisha Ellis' legacy, who helped me with that essay, is now impacting people all over the world? And so when you go back into your classrooms, into your schools and your universities, I want you all to look for opportunity to rewrite the future of your students. And I know, I heard you all have had a lot of conversation about leaving the STEM, right? I heard that you all had a lot of conversations. But I want you all to remember to see the students and see the students beyond the outer appearance. And I want you all to also think about ways that you can take action. And sometimes taking action doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go through all these wraparound services and the bureaucracy of your institution. Taking action is leaving that feedback like the Ellis left me. And as I was going through my PhD program, my master's program, I would go back to the essays I had wrote in high school, and her comments would center me. So think about ways that you can take action. And sometimes it's in the most smallest ways that make an impact on a student. Sometimes we think about, we got to get them to the social workers. We got to get them to all these wraparound services. But sometimes the most impactful moments is those intimate one-on-one students, to let them know, I see you, I hear you, and you're going to be okay. The other place is advocacy. Talked about this earlier before I got on stage. My grandmother raised me in a way that she said that as you go out into the world, there are going to be many things that are not right. There are going to be many things that's going to upset you. There are going to be many things that will keep you up at night. But those very things are the things that you should advocate for. And every single one of us in this room, we all have different lenses in which we've experienced the world. And those lenses have crafted us to be the individuals that we are today. And with that being, lenses also come with a passion and a desire to make a difference in our communities, in our schools, in some form of fashion. So it is important that as you can't sleep at night, those things that keep you up, I challenge you to start advocating for that. And advocacy looks so different in so many different ways. Sometimes we think advocacy is bucking leadership. Sometimes we think it's, going against the grain. But advocacy is, again, that intimate time, that ability to help students in the most vulnerable ways in society. Those are the moments that we should look for. Sometimes we look for these big ways to advocate. We wait till we get on these big stages. But we can advocate to our students in the most intimate ways by showing up for them and letting them know that you see them, that you hear them, and that you're going to raise their concerns to people who can make a decision on it. And the most greatest power is mentorship. We live in a society now where the bureaucracy of our institutions bog us down in paperwork and procedure and logistics. But today, remember I said I wanted to center us, right? We're going to center today. And how I'm going to center you here on mentorship is not allowing the bureaucracy to allow you to forget an opportunity to mentor your students, to get them over the finish line, to write those essays, to meet with them in some uncomfortable hours, right? Outside of those office hours. Because again, the hustle and bustle and the bureaucracy of institutions are starting to become so much that I get it. You don't have time to mentor. But we got to center ourselves and mentor our students. Because again, what did I open up with? A child that comes into your classroom does not have the ability to speak quite yet until a teacher gives them the courage to find their voices and to speak. Yeah. So that mentorship is incredible. And lastly, students, they come from all different backgrounds of life. And we have to provide them the aspiration of something greater. And that is that hope. And I know y'all talked about the STAMP framework, but I wanted to center us here as it relates to students and centering ourselves. So, we're going to do some fun. So, I want you all, everybody at your tables, to take a few minutes. We're going to do a breakout here. Everybody at your table. And I want you all, because so many times, again, we're busy. We're in the hustle and bustle of life. But I want you to take a time and share with your table and talk through a time where you discovered something powerful about a student. And it wasn't what you thought it was, right? Like that teacher, she thought I should be put in special ed. But she didn't realize that I was fearing going home hungry. So I want us to take time and center ourselves today at our tables. So I want us to take about 5 minutes. I know all of us have a story, right? And then on the other side of this presentation, on the next slide, we're going to talk about our action plans when we go home, right? So I want you all get at your tables and talk through that one time you discovered something powerful about a student that changed how you saw and taught them.